What's up, folks? You are tuned into the Failing Frequency. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Mike.
And we are here to talk all things Trek. Today is part 2 of our Courtroom episodes retrospective series, I guess.
Yeah, we're on the, we've done TOS and the movies and TNG. So now it's everything past that.
Yeah. Before that, we're going to run through some recent Star Trek news. But first up, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. A hard day's work followed by a fun little conversation we're going to have here, or 3 or 4 hour conversation we'll have here, makes a Thursday worthwhile.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely.
That, and I just watched She-Hulk before we started as well.
Yeah, so. Dude, that was that was my day.
Yeah,
watching She-Hulk. Yeah, great.
And how are you doing?
Oh well, She-Hulk was great.
Yeah.
Everything I want in an anything.
Yeah.
How am I? I'm great. I've got American family and American extended family and American friends of family, and we've got some American friends of family visiting at the minute, and I went back to my family's home for the get together a few days ago, and I spent much of the evening dropping little anti-Trump dog whistles.
Yeah.
Because obviously I had a lot of material to work with.
Wow. It's just the gift that keeps on giving at the moment, isn't it?
It really is. I would say I was making fun of Alex Jones a lot, and I was making fun of Donald Trump getting his fucking shit busted.
Yeah.
Which is fun. So Donald Trump had his house at Mar-a-Lago, the golf resort, fucking raided, and the FBI pulled out a bunch of what I'm picturing as big cartoon boxes with big red stamps saying top secret all over them. Pretty funny, isn't it?
But they were planted, Ethan. Other than that, he wants them back. He wants the planted documents back.
Yeah, they were planted. They were planted, or they had no cause to go in.
Yeah. It's all the excuses where I think you'll find I redacted them, and also they were planted.
And also Obama took some.
Yeah, Obama
so
did
I should be allowed to take some.
And why aren't you investigating Hillary?
Yeah.
And I think you'll find the FBI is corrupt, and who doesn't just have top secret files in their basements with no locks on for a good long while.
It's what it is it's all these excuses that he offered forth without anyone asking him. None of which are true.
Yeah. And then he throws in, and they took my passports, and it's like, so they think you're a flight risk then as well.
It's just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Just shut up. Well,
but anyway, we were here to talk about Star Trek
man. So that's that's like real world news.
Yeah.
The boring stuff. Let's get on to some Trek news. So first
exciting.
up, I know it is, isn't it? First up, we were talking the other week about Star Trek, being nominated for some kind of, I don't know, kind of meh awards for the Emmys, makeup awards, special effects, that, the classic kind of stuff. But the Hollywood Critics Association awarded Star Trek Strange New Worlds the Legacy Award a few days ago, which is, it's one of the, it sounds more prestigious than fucking makeup.
I mean, I understand its legacy for Star Trek and following on for TOS, but it makes me laugh how it's a legacy award for a show with 10 episodes.
Yeah, but it's
like thank you for staying in there for so long.
But it's because it's a prequel and it's so vintage. They're like, it's the perfect show for a legacy award because of how retro chic it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously completely shallow and vacuous and like meaningless
Some money
twaddle.
changing hands, probably. As well.
But
Most
what I did
awards
like
are.
is in part of the acceptance speech, Henry Alonso Myers, who's an executive producer for the show, said was talking about when they pitched the show. He says, in the first pitch document that we sent to the network, we opened with a question asking, what if we just did Star Trek?
Yeah.
And they said, okay.
Dun dun dun.
Which makes sense considering the show that we got, especially in comparison to the shows that they were giving us.
Yeah.
Discovery and Picard were very much like at the time they came out, they were presented as we're taking Trek in a new direction.
Yeah. Lower Decks as well.
Yeah.
We obviously like Lower Decks, but it is obviously, it's Star Trek but funny. It's a cartoon
Star Trek but
comedy.
rude.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's
look how
Star
they
Trek,
swear.
but one of the characters is Spread Eagle.
Yeah. And I don't particularly hate the idea of Star Trek doing new stuff. I'm not one of those people. But 4 or 5 in a row, when there are fans just saying like, oh, this is all different, as well as appealing to 4 different quadrants, if you throw something up there that appeases older fans, then great. And that's maybe they should have done it before now.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee the Section 31 show isn't Star Trek again, and I guarantee the Starfleet Academy could be, I suppose.
Maybe.
Yeah, when it comes out in 2040.
Maybe I'm hoping that Starfleet Academy is more like Star Trek Animal House, and it's like a super It's one of those like silly booby comedies from the 80s and 90s, like Animal House, Police Academy.
They've got the dean there, like Delta Shift.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
It's gonna be. Yeah, I hope they do. If they're smart, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's fun. Obviously, it's a bit of cognitive dissonance on my part and a lot of people's part. I would imagine they're like, on the one hand, I super don't care about awards, but on the other hand, I feel like the awards that Trek should get should be better ones.
Yeah, there's a couple of Saturn Award nominations out there at the moment, aren't there? For Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds and Disco, I believe.
Yeah,
but
there's
I don't know when they actually
5 Emmy nominations and 6 Saturn noms.
Yeah.
Nom nom nom.
Nom nom nom.
Next bit of news. So it's if anyone's out there watching this, you may know that me and Micah are not fans of a streaming service that we do not have.
Yes.
I had
the trial.
Yeah. And what was the verdict of that trial?
Well, especially in the UK, it was absolutely abysmal.
It was guilty of being a shit streaming service.
Yeah. The worst value for money streamer ever. With so few movies, with content that starts 11 seasons in, and in 1080p, all of it. Every single piece of content in the UK is 1080p max. And you go, why would I pay this much when Disney Plus is the same price and has 10 times as much movies? Because you're not going to open the Paramount library to me.
That's the thing. All they have to do is like open up the Paramount library and just like, as long as the interface is better than Disney Plus is.
Yeah.
Like, that's all they had to do.
It doesn't even need to be better than Disney Plus. I know Disney, like the interface, Disney Plus has the Fox stuff over in the UK, but Paramount has such a massive back collection. Bigger than Fox's.
It's got all the sitcoms.
Yeah.
It's got all the sitcoms from the 80s and 90s.
Got all the crime shows. And you're just like, oh no.
It's got the Twilight Zone.
Maybe I'll put them in. You're like, fucking hell.
I want to binge the Twilight Zone so badly.
Yeah.
But like I've got no options on Paramount Plus. And also now, if I wanted to binge the fucking Star Trek movie back catalog, I also couldn't do that.
Yeah. So this was over in the US, so I haven't checked for the UK because I'm not going to get on it again until I need to for new Trek.
Let me just read. I just want to read. I don't
Yeah.
like. I just want to throw it out there, and I'm just going to read this and then immediately close the tab because at no point do I want to be accused of sharing news from Giant Freaking Robot. However,
yeah,
this fucking clickbait article's title is fantastic. It does kind of sum up what's happening. Paramount Plus drops Star Trek content after luring Star Trek fans there to watch it.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what's actually happened. Like, everything's come off it.
Well, all the movies except for, we should say, have been removed except for Generations, which was never on it, apparently.
Never on it.
And 09, which was never on it. That was on Netflix. And they're managing to keep Into Darkness and Beyond.
Into Darkness and Beyond, right. So far, so the 4K remaster of First Contact came out this year. And a couple of months later was off Paramount Plus. Star Trek the Motion Picture, along with Nemesis, the Voyage Home, blah, 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 will be gone by the end of the month.
Yep.
And 4K remasters of Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, and Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, are both coming out this year. No news
Paramount
on whether...
Plus, they won't be.
Yeah, apparently not on Paramount fucking Plus, they won't be. Yeah. It's...
And we should say that this isn't for the fun of it, although it definitely feels like it. This is because they've got a prearranged license deal with AMC Plus, because of course every streaming network has a plus on the end of it for those movies, and you can kind of excuse it, but at the same time you go, was Paramount Plus like an afterthought, or was the license negotiations for these, were the team negotiating licenses, did they have no idea that you were also making Paramount Plus? Because you also had like CBS Plus beforehand. So were they just like wild men going around and being like, want to buy a license, you know?
Yeah.
I can take it off my streamer and give it to you, you know? Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, what? Not only are there dodgy license dealers hanging around studios, but there appear to be like just naturally occurring streaming services in the Hollywood area.
Yeah.
Like, what is all this nonsense? AMC Plus?
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. And to gummy up the works even more, Paramount Plus has a deal coming with Walmart Plus.
Yeah. Trying to rival Amazon Prime. So Amazon Prime, obviously, you get the delivery aspect, you get the movies, you get an audiobook and music, maybe, or maybe you need the expanded Amazon Prime for that. So Walmart Plus has tried to rival that by doing, you know, same delivery sort of stuff. We'll have it to you same day, next day. We've got more spaces than Amazon does. We're great on that. They do Spotify. So instead of Spotify Premium buying it separately, you can have it through your Walmart Plus account. No idea why. No idea why you would.
It's too many. They're trying to do too many things.
Yeah,
trying to do too many things.
You know what it is? It's cable bundling, but for the for 2020s, where they just go like, instead of being like, okay, let's bundle TV channels, and maybe you're never going to watch, I don't know, Swedish Crime Network or Al Jazeera TV, but if it's part of an entertainment package, then you'll think you're getting an amazing deal, because you're paying per channel so little, even though you watch 10 of the channels.
But it's not. It's that, as well as like, and get a free shopping delivery.
Yeah.
And it's to every company now does everything, and like Walmart Plus, that's ridiculous. We don't have Walmart here in the UK. Do you know what do we have? We have Asda. Are we getting Asda Plus? Is Asda 100 years ago? Asda was a fucking dairy farm, and now it's gonna
It wouldn't
have
surprise
Star
me.
Trek.
Asda and Tesco have their, mobile networks, don't they? So they could try and package like we're Tesco Plus, and it's your mobile phone and Spotify and your TV and your deliveries, and we've got
discounted
cheap
fresh,
petrol.
discounted wonky vegetables.
Yeah, it's so dumb. So dumb.
We live in the weirdest. It's a stupid dystopia.
Yeah.
So announced along with Cisco, the return of Cisco comic book series. Star Trek are also going to be doing some comic book tie-ins for Star Trek Resurgence and Star Trek Prodigy.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to this, Mike?
I'm looking forward to. I'm not particularly looking forward to the Prodigy one because I can't remember Prodigy at this point. I'll go back and watch the first 10 episodes before eventually we get the second 10 episodes for the season. But for Resurgence, which is the game I'm more looking forward to anyway, I see Leah Brahms on the cover.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Yeah. And they'd said before, the game developers, that there were going to be a couple more cameos or like special guest stars arriving other than Spock. And if Leah Brahms is one, then that's all good. Maybe we find out what happened to her, and hopefully she didn't marry Geordie. All I know is Geordie's copy of the comic is going to have every page stuck together by the time he's done with it. Yeah.
Who are the rest of the people in this cover then, do you reckon? I'm guessing these two here. These two.
The mustache man.
So yeah, we've got a mustache man, and then we've got some young Skywalker twin looking motherfuckers down here. I'm guessing those are like the people that you play as in Resurgence.
Yeah, I think they're the
Isn't Resurgence supposed to be like a choose your own adventure thing? Is the whole comic going to be like talking to the fourth wall?
Well, I think that the comic's going to try and probably set them up and go like, okay, this is the ship they're on. This is the captain. Maybe the captain dies, and now we've got a replacement captain for the start of Resurgence. So, and maybe because they also on this cover, they've got this weird alien race. Maybe they're setting up that this is the weird alien race for Resurgence.
Yeah. So we've got here, I can't wait for fans to have a truly immersive game experience on the bridge of the USS Resolute. Well, what about the comic, though? I really want to spend more time with the crew of the USS Resolute, so I'm thrilled to take fans on another adventure in this prequel comic. Yeah, so yeah, they're setting shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's coming out November. Good. And then there's the Prodigy novel that's coming at some point, or January 2023. So again, that Prodigy game looks shockingly poor, so I will not be getting it.
Yeah, that's weird to me because I knew there was going to be a tie into the game, and there was going to be a tie into Prodigy, but I didn't know it was going to be a tie into a Prodigy game. It's a tie-in to a tie-in.
It's weird having the tie-in novel being for a game for kids, like a game that's clearly aimed at kids. It's simple, like puzzles and stuff like that. And the comic books are for a game more aimed at older Star Trek fans. It's like, no, you're old. You can't be bothered reading. Look at the pretty pictures. And, kids, how about a novel?
I mean, I think they're probably like, they're probably thinking of it in terms of like, I mean, let's face it. When you've got to have like all the content coming out.
Yeah.
Let's do all the content. If you look at what Star Wars did do the new canon. They've done it pretty well. They've managed to tie things together pretty well. And they put out a lot of stuff for kids that Star Wars fans of all ages do ingest.
Yeah.
And like, even if they are making Prodigy for kids, it's most kids, it's not going to be completely accessible to most kids.
No.
But it's Star
It's
Trek.
old weary men like you and I.
Well, it's Trekkie parents.
Yeah.
Forcing their children to watch it. My partner watched Prodigy with their kid.
Yeah.
And
did they like it and the kid like it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good sign.
But I'm not necessarily sure the kid would have just happened upon it,
I don't know how they would.
Yeah. This October, Kate Mulgrew will be making an appearance at the bust of Janeway that features in Bloomington, in Janeway's hometown of where is it, Bloomington?
I think Bloomington's Alabama, isn't it?
Is it Alabama? Is it I don't want to say it's Alabama and it turned out to be Arizona. Bloomington, Indiana. Fuck us both.
More fool me.
So Kate Mulgrew's going to be doing a little appearance at the little bust. And there was an announcement, and someone commented on Twitter saying, do you want temporal anomalies? Because this is how you get temporal anomalies. And Kate Mulgrew replied with, what was it? I solemnly promise to not cause any temporal anomalies when I visit my statue in Bloomington this October. Janeway is on alert and ready to handle any causality loops before they occur. Yeah, I like that. Just a bit of fun. It definitely sounds like something Janeway would say. Like we were saying earlier, she would say, I promise not to cause any temporal anomalies. And then just immediately walk off and just be like, okay, Tom, Harry, time to cause some temporal anomalies.
Yeah. Thinking about temporal anomalies makes my head hurt. So let's just do them.
Yeah.
Is the Janeway method.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah. That was a quick one.
Yeah, I liked that. It made me chuckle.
Yep.
And it's a nice light bit of news before we get to something really serious, which is Star Trek Day 2022. The announcements were made on some of the stuff that's going to be happening for Star Trek Day, which is going to be a live online event like they've been doing the past few years, which have always been very enjoyable.
As a reminder to people, this is September 8th.
September 8th. There's going to be like a 3-hour main event between kicking off at lunchtime, local time. So it's going to be like 6 o'clock in the evening for me and you. But yeah, it sounds like a nice daytime event. Sounds like nice. Probably going to be some PIMS. Ooh. There's going to be a Star Trek Picard panel with Jerry Ryan and Michelle Hurd. Lower Decks with Tawny Newsome, Noel Wells, and Dawn Lewis. Prodigy with series voice casts, including Brett Gray and Kate Mulgrew. And a Star Trek Strange New Worlds panel with Rebecca Romaine, Jess Bush, Christina Chong, Celia Rose Gooding, Melissa Navia, and Babs Olusanmakun.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It's exactly that. I'm going to check it
out.
out.
One between a couple of roses, Babs. Yeah. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I remember the last 2 years on Mate It So, I've done live, not tweeting, but live posting to the last two.
But as well as all that stuff, there's going to be a Nichelle Nichols tribute, behind the scenes set tour of Star Trek Discovery. Like, I'm not being funny about, like, we haven't seen, like, there isn't a set that we haven't seen more of.
As
we have seen lots of that set.
Yeah.
But it's going to be with Wilson Cruz, which is great, I guess.
The Mac Daddy himself.
Yes.
Famous bicep man.
Yes, that man is a statue.
I've shook his hand and nearly got shook away. So Wilson Cruz.
There's going to be a Star Trek cosplay runway, which sounds very cool. Put on your best face where a lucky fan will be transformed into a Star Trek alien. There's also going to be a special musical guest, Reggie Watts. Sweet. I love Reggie Watts.
Yeah.
And stand-up comedy from Brian Posehn. But yeah, that's fun. Looking forward to that. But something that I am way more looking forward to, and it's happening actually sooner, on August 25th to the 28th, is Creation Entertainment presents the 56-year mission Las Vegas. So it's a big old Star Trek convention in Las Vegas with 133 guests.
Yeah.
So that's actors and various writers and even a couple of scientists, I assume. There's going to be some seminar talking about how warp speed works.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
That's like as big as Comic-Con.
Vegas and Trek, it always goes hand in hand.
It really does. It really does. Like, we were saying beforehand, they've been doing Star Trek conventions in Vegas for 1 million years. And, after their careers died, a few, actors from Star Trek found work in Vegas. But yeah, this is insane. Just everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, you what? So we've got up here. So we've got headliners. So what have we got for headliners?
They divide people into headliners and special guests for the top 2 tiers, and then there are additional and production people. And in special guests, there's people that you'd expect. There's Shatner, there's Takei, there's Koenig, Mulgrew, Quinto, Jerry Ryan, Sonequa Martin Green, Doug Jones, John Noble, Anson Mounts, Rebecca Ryan.
Wait, John.
Well, John Noble's the evil voice for Prodigy, isn't he?
Okay.
And
I was
Ethan
like,
Peck.
wait,
So
John Noble's in Star Trek? What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course he is.
So they're all headliners, and you go like, yep, makes complete sense. Then you've got Ron Perlman, who was in one movie that he hated. He absolutely hated it and said he might stop acting. So he was as one of the Remans in Star Trek Nemesis. He's a headliner, apparently.
He just watched Tom Hardy get off his tits on crack the whole time and was just like, I'm not sure if I want to do this anymore.
I wonder if his audition was better as well when he didn't have the makeup on. Because Tom Hardy's audition was better, just in a random set.
It's very good.
Compared to in the movie.
Yeah.
And they've also got Tig Notaro, and I have minor beef with Tig Notaro because she's obviously, from what we are led to believe, she is the chief engineer on the USS Discovery. But she also has in her contract that she doesn't want to appear in too many episodes. She's happy to be a headliner at events, but doesn't want to be a mainstay character that they relate to, even though one of the main sets that they've got is engineering, as a reminder. Let's look at people who are just special guests, so not headliners. Yeah. So one of them, Anthony Rapp, the guy who is in every single scene in the same set that Tig Notaro is in. Okay.
Anson Mount again.
Yeah.
I think. Did we mention? Oh, I know we mentioned, but just as a reminder.
Just as a reminder. Andrew Robertson, Garrick, there as well. Yeah. Quark, Armin Shimmerman, there. Jake Sisko, there. Connor Traynor, there. Dominic Keating, the weird British guy, is there. Denise Crosby is there.
Also starring Gates Fadden, also starring George Takei, also starring Garrett White. They've really fucking buried the lead on this fucking lineup.
Yeah, Jeffrey Combs, who has played more characters than Tig Notaro has been in episodes, is
Billingsley, Delancey.
Yeah, Frakes, I don't think was. Yeah, Frakes has directed or feels like Frakes has had more directing of episodes and movies than Tig Notaro has been in episodes. Robert Picardo, Robert Beltran. You go down this list. Tim Russ,
She liked my tweet once.
Wilson Cruz, and his biceps have to fit into an additional guest rather than a headliner. Wilson Cruz's biceps could be headliners, and you've got Tig Notaro, who I know has a career outside of Trek, and you're just like, oh no, she's a headliner.
And so, that's
what?
like Ron
For
Perlman
what?
as well. Like Ron Perlman, is Ron Perlman the most prolific actor in
He's
this
not
lineup?
He's not like in the top 10 prolific actors in Star Trek Nemesis.
I mean, there was a time, in the noughties, where he was one of the
Hellboy.
all-time great guys. He was in a lot of shit.
Hellboy, Alien Free, or Alien Resurrection, sorry. I think Ron Perlman's like fantastic. I think Tig Notaro is pretty good as well, but they are not headliners of a Trek event, is what I'm saying. And you bring these people out, go like, oh no, headline act, Tig Notaro.
Well,
who cares?
Well, I mean, they could have had. I mean, there could have
Are you
been
scrolling
more.
to find worse people?
Well, no, I've just found this list of some of the guest updates. I mean, this is probably why the headlining list is the way it is, because they probably also had Ronnie Rowe headlining. He's the communications officer on Discovery. Mary Wiseman.
Wait, which one?
The one to stage right. He's communications. He's the black one, not the Asian one.
No, but there were two, weren't there? There was a secondary one.
He's the first black one.
Okay.
He's the first black one.
Yeah.
Mary Wiseman, the ginger one.
Yeah.
She was also probably going to be
her own
headliner
series soon enough with Star Trek Academy.
Also, David Benjamin Tomlinson might have been headlining. I don't know. I think he played one of those weird moth people from Discovery that episode.
Okay, yeah.
Shazad Latif also cannot attend the convention. Paul Wesley.
We can't hear you, Clem Fandango.
No. William Shatner will now be appearing on Sunday, not Saturday.
Oh no.
Maggie Threat and Steve Hershen. Beth Toussaint will also not be there. I don't know who that is. Sarah Mitch. All these people were probably going to be headlined. Yeah, Robert Duncan McNeil. What is he? Why not?
Yeah.
Why can't Robert McDuncan McNeil attend the convention? That's what I wanted. That's the only one Why not? What are you doing?
I do wonder if he's got COVID or something like that, because I know he's a journeyman director. Like sometimes he drops in to direct stuff.
Yeah.
But he'll make more money at a Star Trek event than he would directing.
Yeah, I know he's a producer on Resident Alien.
Is that still going?
Yes.
Okay. Good work, Alan Tudyk.
Mm-hmm.
Named after the Klingons. Yeah.
That's the Star Trek news that I that popped up on my radar this week.
Yep. I think that's all the news I had as well. Cool. Fantastic.
So before we get into the meat, speaking of meat and two dicks, I want to just share my theory on
thank God
if
you said
Klingons have if Klingon males, if Klingon biological males have two dicks, and we know that Klingons have redundancy organs for everything, it stands to reason that, like, for the most part, the second dick is like a backup for in case something happens to the main dick. It's probably gets bitten off by like the Klingon pussy during mating, and then the second dick comes out, and then the backup dick, and then a new
movie
backup
teeth
dick
all
gets
over
grown,
again.
kind
Yeah.
of. And yeah, keep that in mind, because that got me thinking about the Klingon biological female's vagina, and how does their redundancy organ work? And not that like I have any evolutionary or like knowledge of Klingon biology to back this up, but here's how I reckon the Klingon vagina should work. Instead of it being like a pussy and then a little backup vulva, like underneath, it's got to be like a shark's teeth. You know, where like it like, you know, a shark has like rows and rows of teeth going in.
Like
yeah. So like that would be like the Klingon vagina. So they'd be like I don't know how to do it. So they'd be like that, and then there'd be a in there. So like if they blow out their pussy, if their pussy can, if like, you know, a severe Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque goes down, and they have to, you know, like that actress had to go to the hospital after Arnold Schwarzenegger like nearly had sex with her till she split in two.
Yeah.
Like with a Klingon, instead, they would just
pop it off.
Yeah, they would just pop that off. Yeah. Just whap off that, you know, blowed out pussy. And let the redundancy pussy within take over like a shark's teeth. Like when they lose their teeth and the one behind it just comes forward.
Sometimes I wonder with these, you know, do I have to mark them when we put them on YouTube as not for kids? And then sometimes we have conversations like this one.
Look, I mean, I would let my kid listen to this.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine.
Let's make it educational.
Edutainment.
Don't kangaroos have multiple vaginas?
Oh, is that to save space or for structural integrity?
I don't fucking know. I'm not an evolutionary biologist.
Edutainment.
Edutainment. Speaking of someone who's had the... Are you ready for a good transition? Speaking for someone who's had the genitals blown out by a Klingon, let's start talking about our court episodes from DS9 on. First episode, Dax.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right, people. Part 2 of the Star Trek Courtroom playlist.
We're on Dax.
Yeah, man. So what happens? What happens in Dax?
Okay, so Dax is the episode. You just can't get over my good transition.
Beautiful.
And speaking of transitions, Dax. Yeah.
Oh man, you're so good at this.
I'm weaving a tapestry of all my in-plays. So Dax is an episode where people arrive at the station and try and kidnap Dax for the crimes of Curzon Dax, specifically try and kidnap Jadzia, obviously, because we're in season 1.
They just rock up and try to kidnap her.
Yeah. They rock up and go like, okay, let's try and, you know, kidnap this woman and drag her into a shuttle, and because we've got an extradition order and we're going to take her back to our planet because we think Curzon Dax committed a crime and who leaked military secrets during a war when he was stationed on some dumbass planet. So they get the lawyer or the secretary from Liar Liar in to adjudicate whether they can.
She's awesome.
Take Jadzia away for the crimes of Curzon Dax, and you know and it's not a trial. You know, even though we're in court episodes, it's a hearing, so shorter, informal sort of stuff. But it's a bit of you know, are you are you guilty for the crimes of your previous self when you are a Trill? So it's that sort of episode.
Yeah, it's one of those Star Trek episodes that I like because it's a thought experiment, and I always say I like a thought experiment because it is, when we talk about ideas of identity and the self, we try to people try to work out what the self is. The philosopher John Locke was like, he was like, the self is like a process, your life process, your actions through your life as you remember them from the moment that you're looking back, kind of thing. So you are the product of a string of the moments that lead up to where you are now. That's one theory on consciousness. Another theory is that your conscious is the only consciousness that exists, and every other thing around you is either not real,
might as well be a simulation,
or may as well not be real.
Yeah.
All of these different ideas about what consciousness is are all bouncing around out there, and thought experiments and the way I see it, episodes like this, by extension, are just there to challenge those ideas. So, you have this idea of what the self is. Yeah, but what if yourself could be saved, then uploaded to a different self?
Yeah.
And then that self becomes their self and yourself. Does that person are they now guilty of your crimes?
Yeah. And specifically for this one, it's saying, okay, Jadzia didn't commit a crime, but Dax the symbiote did. And when they join, their personalities mesh. You always see Jadzia, especially early seasons, walk hands behind. And that was a conscious decision as part of the actors and everything to be like, oh no, she's walking like a gentleman would. It sounds ridiculous. Walking with your hands behind the back is like a gentleman would walk. But it was in the thing where it's like, no, an older gentleman walks like that. So you take on parts of the Dax personality as part of you being a combined being, and
I think it's actually like the old that way of walking is the old lady that Dax used to be.
Is it supposed to be the old lady?
It's the one that Kira plays in that episode.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's she got it like that. And then other Daxes probably picked that up, which kind of it lends to the point of it's the Dax symbiont throughout all of that.
Yeah.
So like
you end up picking up. You have the memories and parts of the personality of everyone that has had the Dax symbiote before you as part of in there. So the first person that gets a symbiote is just like new, fresh dude. This is me, 100% me. The second person that gets it is just like, it's me and another dude locked in here. Another person locked in here. And as it dilutes down,
like Hulk.
Yeah. Like Hulk. And as
like
it dilutes
Hulk from
down.
She-Hulk.
From She-Hulk, the show today.
Yeah. That was
as
today.
It dilutes down, you just like have an amalgamation of like 20 different personalities, and you're just like, well, I know someone 5 generations ago killed someone, and I have the memories of them killing someone, but I didn't kill someone.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a weird thing,
Yeah.
Do they I don't think any, at some point they say like, well, maybe we just take the Dax symbiont. We just take the Dax symbiont. Like, if anyone is guilty of this crime, if anyone that is present here is guilty, it's the Dax symbiont. But like, are they? Is the Dax symbiont guilty of the actions of the Trill that they were joined to?
I would argue if it was Curzon, so the previous Dax that did the crime, then the Dax symbiote probably is.
Well, I don't think that the way I see it is the Dax symbiont is just a repository. It's just like a living hard drive. Pardon me, I just burped. I will burp
No
again.
But like, if you've got, let's say it wasn't a biological being, let's say it was a chip in the mind, and it held Curzon Dax and all the previous memories of all the other Daxes. That Curzon Dax was the person who has committed the crime. And if you could extract him and kill that, like chip, if you could delete that chip and throw it in the bin, then that chip holds the personality because it's Curzon and the previous Daxes. When Curzon had the symbiote, it was him and the previous Daxes who committed the crime. But you can't do that because it kills Jadzia. You know, if you strip a Trill out, it kills a Trill. So,
well, I mean, like
a joint Trill.
I mean, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was John Locke would be like, yes, Jadzia is probably guilty of this crime because Jadzia is guilty of everything that led up to where she is now.
Yeah.
What
I've tried to relate it to in real life is conjoined twins. Let's say conjoined by the heart. So they've got one heart pumping around, and one of them committed a murder that was, you know, a crime of passion. It wasn't premeditated, where the other one is just hanging on, going like, yeah, I reckon we should, or I'll help. I'll do half the walking there. You know, if one of them's just use their one hand that they have control on to smack someone on the head with a baseball bat just out of fun, would the courts at the moment in our existence put the conjoined twins into prison even though one of them was not guilty?
I don't think they would go to prison.
I don't think
they would go to prison. I think they would go to a center. They would go to a rehabilitation center.
Well, yeah. In Star Trek as well. Well, hopefully.
I don't know, actually. And I think maybe for this, if you had to punish Jadzia for this crime, maybe stick him in one of those simulations that they stuck Colmini in. Stick him in a 70-year simulation of but just spin up Curzon, I guess. Spin up Curzon, like they do. Spin him up like they do in Altered Carbon. Spin him up and stick him in a 70-year criminal prison simulation.
Do you want to know my two solutions to this?
Go on then, because I can't think of fucking any. This is, I think maybe my brain is too locked into the idea of thought experiments not necessarily having an answer.
Yeah. My first solution is you let Jadzia live her life, but next time when it comes to transferring the symbiote, you just let it die.
Nah, you see, because then it becomes a death penalty, and that's
I know it's a death penalty, but it's a death penalty for, or you let it swim in the bloody liquid by itself.
You can't sentence the symbiont to death for murder. It's not like they did something terrible, like talk about Talos 5.
Yeah. But you could like scoop up some of the liquid from the Trill homeworld and just like make a prison out of that and just let it swim in that prison.
Maybe.
Second solution is, we know from later episodes, which obviously weren't written at the time of this, that the Trill can suppress a personality completely, because there's a Dax that was a killer who gets suppressed, like that literally was a killer that gets suppressed. And they just suppress that personality, and maybe it will cause like terrible things for the Trill over a set period of time, over like 5 or 6 lifetimes. But you could try,
But the thing is, this is like the crime itself it's not a murder, it's treason.
It's treason that led to murder.
It's treason. It's treason that led to murder and led to the deaths of loads of people. But it's treason on a planet that neither Jadzia nor Curzon were citizens of.
Yeah.
It was when he was acting as a diplomat, which means he's got certain kind of dodgy fucking bullshit fucking excuses for getting away with certain shit. Anyway, I don't think that Dax is guilty of this crime.
Well, we
at all.
know for sure that they aren't.
We know for sure that they
Yeah.
aren't, because
The end of the episode decides to go like, oh, there was a moral choice in this episode, and then decides to go like, nah, there wasn't a moral choice at all.
Yeah, I love it when the prosecutor's mom comes in and she's like, no, I fucked her.
Yeah, you
Dax
remember
couldn't
me?
have killed Dax couldn't have done the treason. We were boning. Sorry, son.
You made me say it out loud
in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was being such a little bitch the whole time anyway. His mum should have just walked in and just slapped him.
That actor always plays like little bitches.
He does. He does always play little bitches.
He's like typecast as being like an arsehole.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I think it's I like this episode. Well, did you like this episode?
I like it. I do think the end where it becomes like not a moral choice. It becomes like Jadzia defending the honor of the wife. I say the wife, not that she doesn't have her own personality, but I can't remember her name.
That secret Irish actress.
Yeah,
she's.
I think
she's secretly Irish.
It's secret Irish person.
Yeah,
I think it loses a bit in that because the moral ambiguity or the choice, which DS9 is good for, is kind of like killed there. Whereas, like, if Curzon did do some shady shit, which, by the sounds of Curzon, from everything we know of him, he probably did do a lot of shady shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we know he was like cheating on some dude, some general. You know, he was just like, nah. Oh yeah, I'm really interested in like, I'm just staying at your wife's place just to help get this message out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then, you know, shacking up with her. It takes. I prefer having the moral ambiguity in there, but it's for a DS9 season 1 or season 2, whenever it is. It's a good episode in the context of that.
I think it's got some funny moments. As with a lot of things, it's not funny like because it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, at the start of the episode, the guys come in to kidnap Dax, and it's literally like that scene in Ghostbusters where Venkman and Spengler are just like, "Get her!"
Yeah.
That was never going to work. Although it does kind of work, but like it only works because of Bashir's completely ineffective attempt at trying to fucking.
Oh, I've got in my notes for this episode, and I did watch it a week ago. Julian is such a creep who hits on someone so hard he nearly knocks himself out. So when he tries to defend Jadzia from getting kidnapped, he runs up, pushes a guy, and pretty much pushes the guy, but then runs into a wall afterwards.
Yeah, he like
knocks himself out.
Yeah, he runs into the guy so hard he knocked himself out.
Dax!
You're like, what the hell are you doing, Julian? You know, you Egypt. I do like Cisco in this as well. Cisco in this episode, because he's like, you know, bring me all the case law on this, and I don't care if it's case law that says, you know, the answer that we don't want to hear. I just want to see it.
Yeah,
you know, he's good in this, and he's a strong character in this.
Yeah, I did think it was a weird moment where he has one of those very classic TOS moments of, oh, if you were a man.
Yeah, if you were a man, I would hit you right now. And it's like,
well, that would be wildly inappropriate in the workplace, and that would be grounds for court-martial.
I mean, imagine if the Dax symbiote was just put into a man, and like some young lad.
Yeah.
And he just decided to hit this young lad. To be like,
he just hits it. No. Like, well, you're a dude, so I'm allowed to punch you.
Yeah.
What he means is, if you were Curzon,
yeah,
I would.
If you were Curzon,
justifiably, I would be justified in punching you.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about this episode before I mention who I believe is the MVP of this episode?
You go for it.
And Ryan Haney, who plays the arbiter, the Bajoran judge, is fucking she's awesome in this episode.
Yeah.
She just
She's got the gavel. She's got the Klingon gavel again.
She's got the sparky ball.
Yeah.
And like she just rocks up and she's like, I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. Let's fucking wrap this up. And then when it's, immediately when she realizes it's going to take longer than an afternoon, she's like, oh, well, I guess this is what we're doing then. And she is super like, it's quite funny. She kind of reminded me a bit of, and I know it's just because it's in my mind. There were some moments that were somewhat akin to the Alex Jones trial, where like the judges, fairly early on realized who is the fuckhead and who is in the right in this situation. And
she says something like either you have a fantastic skincare routine, or you're not the person on the docket.
Yeah,
because Jadzia is supposed to be like. Or like Dax, the person who's supposed to be tried, is supposed to be 140 at this point.
Exactly.
And she's like, fantastic skincare routine, or you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, and she just does just like it's like, and what she's kind of drawing attention to is this, what qualia, this idea, and it's this like, it's hard to put into words, but that person is not that person. Like it's, and it's kind of what a lot of philosophical debate kind of boils down to is like it comes to like these ideas of qualia, just a certain intrinsic essence, that's the theory of essence. It's just this thing is what it is, and it has this somewhat unknowable quality, but it is self-evident. Jadzia Dax not being Curzon Dax is self-evident.
It makes you wonder if like there was genetic memory with a species, whether they'd be like, oh no, if you're a child of a species and you hold all the memories of your parents who hold all the memories of their parents, whether you'd be tried for their crimes as well, even though you're excluding the symbiote nature of it, would you still be tried? So is that whole bloodline written off? And it's
what if they were a hive mind? If one of them commits a crime, does everyone have to be punished?
Do the Borg,
although
one of the Borg step out alive,
hive mind would probably say like, well, when one of us is punished, we are all punished, and it would be like a platitude.
Yeah, we know on a Borg ship, if you step out of line, your whole ship can be blown up. Apparently,
Oh, so the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So the answer is definitely yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Like both like metaphorically and practically
and in track. Yeah.
Okay. Verdict.
I'll say it's a good episode.
Guilty.
Guilty of being a good episode.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree. Guilty on 2 counts of being a good episode.
Bang bang. Where's your gavel gone?
I don't know. A ball. I have this ball.
Okay. Oh, sparky ball.
Yeah, I have a sparky ball.
There we go. I love the noise.
I sentence the episode Dax to 20 years hard labor down the pot noodle mines of Wales.
Oof. Terrible.
For being such a good episode.
Right. Second episode in our stack today is, I believe, DS9 Tribunal. So in this, O'Brien is going on holiday with Keiko and is arrested by the Cardassians who board his little runabout, because apparently people can just take these runabouts off, even though there are only 2 or 3 of them on the station. They can take them off for a week.
Yeah, well, when you're chief of operations, you put yourself at the top of that list, can't you?
Yeah. And this is another Kangaroo Courts, 1984, lights in your eyes, ask questions, told to confess without knowing what your crime is.
Oh yeah, this is some
court.
real fucking dodgy Gestapo bullshit going on in this episode.
Yeah. And without spoiling it, this might be my favorite episode that we're going to talk about today, really.
Yeah. Okay.
I do like this episode because it's just, especially in a court setting, because it is bringing in like, what does a different race have for their, or what does a different species have for their court system?
Yeah.
And the Cardassians, we kind of know by watching DS9 that Garrick, when he's showing, novels with Bashir, it's, oh no, the mystery novels aren't the mystery of who done it. It's how do you bring them down for doing it.
They're always we already know who did it.
They're always guilty.
We've already decided. We've already decided who did it.
Yeah.
It's not that we know who did it. We've decided who did it.
Yeah. And this episode, more than a lot we're going to talk about today, it's got a lot more of the court system. So we know there's a public conservator, which is your pretty much lawyer, who in the Cardassian system is just a guy to guide you to your confession. And that's Koval, I think, in this episode. Then we've got...
he's an ass.
Yeah. Or he's just like an old guy who's just been doing his job of getting people to confess to crimes they didn't do, potentially, for decades.
Well, this is most irregular.
This is most unusual.
Most irregular.
Yeah. We've got the Chief Archon, or I think it is, who's Mark Bar.
Yep. Yeah, she's cool.
Who's the judge, who's a great Cardassian.
She's like very subtly
actress.
sinister.
Yeah.
She definitely is she's doing the whole kill him with kindness thing a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Whenever she's talking to Cisco and she's like, well, if you have any complaints, you can send them to my special filing cabinet.
Yeah. And this is the longest trial we've ever had. And it's been like a day.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's a like you say, with a lot of these episodes, we are kind of we're going to be treading some ground that we tread in the last episode, because they are, a lot of these things are kind of repeated memes, much like Klingon literature, where it is, we're doing, like you say, it's a kangaroo court, it's a mock trial where the outcome has already been decided, and how do we defeat that kind of strict, rigid, heartless, uncaring legal system?
Well, in the Cardassian system, you can't bring evidence after you've been brought to trial. So there's pretty much no way of you bringing evidence at all, because you have to be convicted. You're pre-convicted, and then in your trial, you can't bring evidence, which is always fantastic. So the Federation are going like, we know we've got proof that his voice print for stealing torpedoes that were given to the Maquis were fake. I'm like, no, that's not admissible evidence. You can't bring that in now after he's already been tried.
That's the thing. We don't started. That's what it's about. There's some weapons have been sold to the Maquis. What is good about this episode is that, much like we learn what O'Brien is in for at the same time as O'Brien.
Yeah.
We learn pretty much the same time, because they won't tell him what his crime is. They pull him in, they pull his teeth out, they fucking they do all kinds of shit, and the whole time he's like, why am I here? And they're like, it's not important.
Yeah.
You are, what is important is the role that you are about to play.
You're there. This trial
order.
Is the state.
Yeah,
it's broadcast. They jump to a couple of the interstitial outside bits are people looking at map paintings of buildings, and they have the trial on screen, and the trial is broadcast to the planet to show no, this is what happens when you defy the state, and every crime is solved. the arbiter, whatever his name is, Kovor, the conservator, says, this whole thing is about 100% of crimes are solved and people feel safe. Every crime is solved. Every criminal gets punished and people live happy lives. Because,
man, I tell you what, this guy needs to read up on a little something called the Spanish Inquisition.
yeah,
Because he would love that shit.
yeah,
Check out the Salem witch trials, mate. People, those public hangings certainly made everyone feel great.
yeah. The trouble with this sort of system, where there's no prosecutor. So in this system, in the Cardassian system, there's no prosecutor. It's the state that is prosecuting you.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to run into, if you're just a general citizen that hasn't committed a crime, you'll have people picked up in your life that you're pretty sure didn't commit the crime that they were done for. And then go, oh, I didn't know Ethan was a murderer, because I was having a pint with him that night. But
well,
then
he was evading paying taxes, but we
yeah.
couldn't prove that. However, we did just go into his flat and just spray blood everywhere.
Yeah, but then instead of reinforcing your view of the state being able to catch 100% of criminals, you either have to be so indoctrinated that you think, oh no, I know I was with Ethan grabbing a pint in the evening, but maybe he did commit that murder somehow. Like maybe he had like a crossbow on a timer.
Yeah, because the state wouldn't lie to me.
Well, maybe the state is wrong in this, and it ruins that whole thing that the state is going for, where it is, no, we catch 100% of criminals. Everything's fine.
Well, that's where so like you have like this state that is just picking up criminals, anyone that they deem to be a criminal for whatever purpose. At that point, it doesn't matter what it is they did, because what matters is this statement that needs to be made that signals to the rest of the people that they live in a crime-free society, because and it's just, and it becomes just propaganda. And I think that's what I guess what the episode is kind of drawing our attention to, that propaganda takes many forms. I mean, we recently, we've just been enjoying watching a trial. I watched the fucking Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. That was a real fucking circus. I watched the reenactments of the Michael Jackson trial years ago. That was thoroughly harrowing. In many ways we do kind of, people do want to, they like seeing justice, and they also want, people generally, and this thought comes up a lot in conspiracy theory thought, people generally en masse, they want to know, or they want to feel as though that there are grown-ups in charge who know what they're doing. Like that's like they want to believe that, and so a system like what Cardassia has, it provides both those things. It lets it shows the people justice, being enacted, and it shows the system protecting them. A system that knows what it's doing, much like the Soviets.
And in the case we've got here, the Federation, Cisco walks in with a Cardassian who's undergone surgery. So this is another one that I always forget in the whole people who've undergone surgery to look like a completely different species in Star Trek. What was apparently O'Brien's old mate on the Rutledge. And in front of the court can't say, oh no, we can't admit this, and we can't add this evidence in, but the Federation definitely have evidence that we're lying, that we've made this conspiracy to kind of like ruin the ability for the Federation, and probably mistrial.
And
probably like
everyone put everything down. It's mistrial.
Well, it would tear down the demilitarized zone. That whole
Yeah.
like any sort of ex-Federation colonies in that sort of space would just be gone.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, well, we can't say that. So again, they work for the state and say, O'Brien, you're guilty, but we'll commune your death sentence because
Don't
everything's
worry
a death
about it.
sentence here.
This one's on us.
This one's on us. We think, in the spirit of like being good to the Federation, that you're allowed to go free.
Yeah, we'll kill your defense lawyer instead.
Yeah, this guy's like,
enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Yeah, great episode, I think.
Yeah, what did you think of Odo in this episode?
Odo's great.
Odo's great.
Odo gets to work as the Nester, I think it is, which is, again, it's another defense council aide. And it, again, someone who's just supposed to shepherd the person to their end of life or admitting their crimes and their end of life.
Yeah, and it is all like these, and both Odo and that guy are like on paper supposed to be his defense.
Yeah.
But they are both supposed to just guide him to the execution chair.
And I like Odo, where he just like speaks up at the start to get that position where he's just, I'll be his Nester. And he's just like, I'll be this dude's Nester. And they go like, no, you can't. You need to be sworn in. And he goes like, oh no, here are my credentials. And everything where he's just like, no, I'll bring in new evidence now. And the judge is like, no. Makbar's like, no, you won't. He's like, this is outrageous. It's like the most animated you see Odo in season 1.
It's because he's frustrated because people aren't listening to him. Then he's not used to people not doing what he says. Yeah, and like it's funny when he's doing that, and so is the other dude. He's flipping out because he's just not prepared. He's like his whole role is a performance. But he needs to work on his improv.
Yeah. Speaking of performance, they allow the family of the soon-to-be deceased to be there to just be like, no, this is what happens to your family if you commit a crime in the Cardassian, empire. Your family witness you dying, and they like lose all sort of credibility that they have. They are just
unless they publicly disavow you.
Yeah,
so fucked up.
Like, it's such an interesting like view of a different sort of court. It
kind of feels like a kind of like some kind of like Philip K. Dick future.
Yeah,
I
say that it's 1984. Like, parts of it are clearly 1984, and some of it is cribbed off the Picard Cardassian episode.
It's definitely a spiritual sequel to that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, how do you find this episode?
I definitely find this episode guilty of being a good episode. Guilty on one count of being a good episode.
Make it 2 counts.
2 counts for you.
2 counts. Yeah. Right. Should we move on to next episode?
Yes, please.
Which I believe is our last DS9, I think, which is Rules of Engagement.
Yes.
Which might be your favorite episode of these that we're going to talk about.
I think so, yeah. I think so.
So this is an episode where Worf was in a battle situation as captain of the Defiant, fighting some Klingons, because the Klingons are against them at this point because of Changeling Gowron. Or Changeling Martok, sorry. And a Klingon civilian ship decloaks in front of him, and he fired on it as it was decloaking to get that tactical advantage, not knowing it was a civilian ship.
Yeah.
So
he thought it was this other bird of prey that was just popping up and firing at them.
So the Klingons are dragging him through the mud and taking him through court to extradite him on crimes of blowing up a Klingon ship during war and committing, a war crime. Don't shoot civilian ships. Good plan. Very good episode. Very good episode. It's got this Klingon lawyer advocate Chapok, I think his name is.
He's great. He's great.
Who is the, we mentioned it last episode, but has the sort of Klingon thing where it is there's honor in winning a legal battle for him.
Yeah. That whole aspect of like Klingon culture, like everything is seen through a lens of combat. So like a doctor defeats a virus, a lawyer sees you on the court battlefield, a teacher trains your children to be superior mathematic warriors.
And he says to Cisco at some point, and it might just be, part of a ruse, but, if we get Worf extradited to Kronos, I'll defend him because, I want to defend him. It's part of my jam, I'll fight it. I'll fight a fight. In the
that's the thing. Like when you watch the episode, like when he says that, I'm like, I kind of feel like if Worf just like lets him win this, I think he might win. They would go back to Kronos and he would probably win the case.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fine. They'd get to Kronos and they'd be like, we were in the middle of battle. This is what was happening.
Yeah.
This shit popped up out of nowhere. So I fired on him and everyone would just go, well, I would have done the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not guilty.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to do that. That's not the Federation way.
No. And it probably would have been a kangaroo court on Kronos as well. Same again. We get so many kangaroo courts, don't we? But this is the episode that I was thinking of, where it's all ruse really to give the Klingons carte blanche to do kind of like whatever they want to do as part of the war, where they're like, no, this could help us like solve the war, whatever the advocate is saying. Federation will have to lose ground because they'll have to say, no, we did wrong. And the Klingons were right. So we'll just like come here and go do this. And, we'll ride on the coattails of you saying you've done wrong or the Federation have blown up a civilian ship. We'll do that as long as we want. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's a classic move of the righteous.
Yeah.
Is to defame and demoralize and to fucking make shit up and blame the embassy. We might be bad, but they're doing bad as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a red flag at all. I love this. This episode has a wonderful narrative device that I really want to talk about.
I was going to say
it's a great directorial choice where when a witness is on the stand talking about an event happening, they will cut to a flashback of the event, but have the witness in the event addressing the court within the scene. So,
they turn to the camera, they do whatever, and then just go like, no, of course, I said to him to do this.
Yeah. Jadzia's talking about her and Worf training, and it cuts to her and Worf training, and she's looking at the camera talking about them training. And when they talk about, the shit going down on the Defiant, it's O'Brien at the con of the Defiant looking at the camera talking about it. It's a great choice. And in one of those scenes, there is a very perplexing moment, and it's the one with Quark. It's the flashback with Quark, right? In Quark's right. I love that moment where he's like, he can't remember which Dabo girl it is. So the scene keeps changing. But then it features, then Quark openly admits in court, without really being prompted, some really incriminating shit on Worf. He says that Worf was like, I hope the fucking Klingons start some shit because I will fuck them up. It's like, no one asked you to say that. You pick now to start telling the truth for the first time in your life. You have decided to fucking incriminate Worf freely.
Do you know what my
unprompted.
rationalization for it is? That Quark fancies Jadzia, and Jadzia is boning
Yeah,
Worf. Multiple penises
maybe,
and all.
maybe, maybe.
But yeah, it's a whole point on like how much bloodlust did Worf have, where he was just like hoping to kill any sort of other Klingons or his enemy who he'd view as any other Klingons. Do you think this episode, like I said with Dax, the episode Dax, where it loses a bit of impact because Curzon didn't actually do the thing he was, didn't actually give out the general's coordinates when the whole episode could have run pretty much the same anyway. If the Klingons, instead of having this fake transport ship full of fake dead people, if they'd set him up to kill real Klingons, so had this pattern of cloaking and decloaking and firing, say they'd done it in front of him and then they'd cloak, go behind him and decloak and fire. And all Worf had said would be like, ready rear torpedoes, fire them when they decloak. Or as you see something decloaking. But the Klingons had organized like a suicide vessel full of civilians to do it.
So
I think that has more impact on the episode.
So if they had have killed, if there had have been people in there, it would have had more impact. But I still think the verdict should have been the same.
Yes,
because there was still conspiracy on behalf of the Empire. So yeah, I think it would have been a deeper narrative choice for sure. But at the same time, that would probably mark Worf long term in a way that like you just can't do and also return to status quo. If they had done that, then people on online forums to this day would be like, how does Worf not have fucking some form of PTSD from killing all those innocent civilians?
Well, the episode opens with him having PTSD of him having nightmares, doesn't it? Really, of killing kids.
But I think it'd be a different story if it had have actually just been a civilian ship that was just coming out of nowhere. I think that's a different story.
If it was a civilian ship coming out of nowhere, which they pretend to be, then I think in either of our redos where it's a civilian ship coming out of nowhere, or if it's a fake ship of people willing to sacrifice themselves, it lends more into qualified immunity, where police officers, if they accidentally gun down a civilian, this is the US rather than the UK. Although I think there's some sort of qualified immunity in the UK as well. I don't know. Not a police officer. If you do it in the role of your job and you were found to be like probably working to be like, oh no, I thought they were coming at me with a gun, so I shot them.
I shot a kid. He was 13 years old. Oh, it was dark. I couldn't see him. He had a ray gun, looked real enough.
And they've got qualified immunity to kind of get off with that. I think that's, a more interesting episode to focus around and still say, Worf, I'm sorry, but what the fuck were you doing?
Yeah.
Which Sisko does do at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's a great moment at the end of the episode. That's a great
you made
line.
2 mistakes. What was the other one?
Great line.
Yeah.
Damn right you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sisko does this thing as well where like as Worf's about to tell him the mistake, he's like standing in the door frame of the Defiant or somewhere. And then he like takes a step in so the door can close. And he's like, you damn right, you made a mistake.
Yeah, he steps in, the door closes, and his lip starts quivering, and he starts doing that Avery Brooks thing of like shaking while he shouts, because he looks like he's like I'm letting this out, but there is more inside.
I'm glad you realize that. That was your first mistake. What was your second?
When the ship decloaked,
I should have checked the target before I fired. You're damned right you should have checked. You knew there were civilian ships in the area. You fired at something you hadn't identified.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great moment.
But I think it would have related more to like our real world if it was a qualified immunity episode rather than a Worf was set up episode.
Well, I think, there are certain aspects of society that weren't as, well, I'm not going to say weren't as prevalent, but they weren't as, sort of noted by the mainstream as they are now, police violence.
We didn't all
in the
have one of
90s in
these.
America, we didn't all have phones to video fucked up shit going on. Discussions of police brutality and stuff of the like just wasn't as prevalent at the time. But I think if they made that episode now, then that would probably be definitely a more important factor. There are some like interesting moments especially with that Quark testimonial where he's like, you know what you Klingons are like, but you're also, you people, you're also very nice and very polite when you want to be. And the arbiter's just like, can we move on? Like, he's just like it kind of tastes funny. That moment has a heavy whiff of racism. Yeah. About the Klingon lawyer. One of the arguments that he brings up about the heart of bloodlust. He also introduces another factor that I thought was very funny, especially because the show was made in the 90s. He talks about the simulation that Jadzia and Worf are in, the battle of fucking whatever, where he plays General Som Peck. And he's, the lawyer basically implies that after playing this simulation that he had violence in his heart, which just kind of feels like an argument for video games making people violent.
Well, yeah, he uses at the end of the simulation, you're playing this warrior who then commits genocide, and at the end of the simulation, did you say, kill all the women and children, which is the end of the simulation? Did you say that? And they go like, well, yeah. I killed virtual kids, or like I sent out the order to kill virtual kids. Who hasn't of our generation played a Call of Duty? There was that one where
bring in the tactical nuke. Bring in the tactical nuke.
Tactical nuke. Everyone would hope to get a tactical nuke.
Fucking hell, man.
You're
Grand
striving
Theft Auto
for it.
3. Grand Theft Auto 3. Best. Oh, mate, you gotta play Grand Theft Auto 3, mate. It's fucking sick. What you can do is you can go pick up a fucking sex worker, and you can fucking shag her, and you can kill her and take all the money. It's fucking sweet.
Or that Call of Duty Modern Warfare mission where it's like just Russian or no English, where they go into the airport and they don't speak any Russian and just gun down everyone. So it's like a false flag, and you're like, okay, fantastic, I suppose.
Man, you spend a whole level of that game just killing innocent civilians.
Yeah,
and you decide to as well. You get the choice. You're just like, by the way, this is what's going to happen in the next level. You can skip this level if you want. Did they fuck?
And there are limits on that. Like there have been games pulled from Steam and stuff like that are shoot up a school.
Yeah,
and
that's fucked up.
Yeah,
like, that's fucked up.
Well, so is shooting civilians, and like, thankfully in Grand Theft Auto and COD, there aren't kids and stuff like that. Even though those situations would lend themselves to having children in them, an airport, and
I don't know. You know what airports are like? They're a pain in the ass.
Yeah, but we have, a not 100% arbitrary line where it is, if you're playing as a school shooter, you're like a bastard. If you're playing as a terrorist, who's just shooting adults, you're not 100% a bastard. You're just like playing a game. And we've got that not 100% arbitrary line.
Yeah.
Whereas in the future, apparently they don't have that arbitrary line. So Worf is just like, no, kill those kids. You know,
Kill the
that's fine.
fucking kids.
Yeah.
Eat them, like straight up. Like you just,
Yeah.
you just do it. Yeah, man.
Mm.
You are straight up decapitating people in a room.
Mm.
Yeah. But video games don't cause violence.
They don't. They've been proven time and time again to not to. Again,
Yeah.
let's not have school shooter simulations though. I do like
it's just in bad taste.
It's in very poor taste. I do like the end of the episode. We spoke about Cisco coming in again. I find it weird. The Starfleet choice is not to fire when you see a decloaking vessel, and it's in a different time than TOS or whatever. But the only reason they defeated Christopher Plummer is they fired on a cloaked vessel. And you go like, well, in a war situation, that ship, that civilian ship, shouldn't be like walking towards the people firing. It shouldn't be like, can we offer assistance here? We'll decloak in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So although Cisco says it's the Federation should never shoot until they've got like 100% identification.
Who do you think
on the target.
you are? James T. Kirk?
Yeah.
In The Undiscovered Country and Balance of Terror?
Yeah. I'm sorry, but like, in my opinion, Cisco's wrong and Worf was 100% right to shoot.
Yeah.
If you've noticed
I
this
agree.
ship, you know, fire, cloak, maneuver, fire. And Worf says, no, I've recognized what their tactics. I know where they're going to decloak. Let's fire on that spot the second
I think
week.
I think he was justified in his logic.
He's 100% justified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though, you know, it's war crimes and qualified immunity and all that, he's 100%.
But it's not war crimes. It's not war crimes, is it?
It's a false flag.
It's a
synthetic.
flag. It's a synthetic event.
Yeah.
Okay. The Defiant incident is a false flag operation.
Yeah.
That's Cisco. That's Cisco on InfoWars.
I would splice in InfoWars here, but I don't want to add any credence to a false flag actually
you would have
being
to
a false
find
flag.
it. InfoWars has been scrubbed from YouTube. You would have to actively go out and find it. Like, you have to search for it.
Even if I didn't, I don't want to attach a video of Alex Jones saying something as a false flag to a false flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to give him the credence of having one thing right.
Yeah. No. Speaking of Alex Jones getting one thing right, since last week's episode, people have pointed out to me that he was right about the frogs them putting chemicals in the water to turn the fucking frogs gay.
Yeah.
Right? No. Alex Jones was not right about that. That was a true thing. Yes. But he did not predict that. That was not a scoop. No. He was just reiterating something that had already been reported in the mainstream news.
Yeah.
But regardless of whether or not chemicals from processing plants were having an unexpected effect of turning a certain species of frogs hermaphrodites, that's not what people are making fun of.
No.
People are making fun of him turning into a giant fucking raspberry and freaking out over something not that important, and definitely doesn't have a wider meaning about society being feminized.
And you know what? Like, agencies Alex Jones is against? Environmental agencies who are looking into whether the chemicals, you know, companies pump into the water, like, you know, if they have an effect on species and everything like that. So you can't be like, oh no, they're pumping water and, you know, they're pumping chemicals into the streams to make frogs gay, and also be at the same time like, no, free capitalism. So like, even when he stumbles on something that, you know, he half remembers correctly, he does a Joe Rogan, and he may occasionally stumble on something that he half knows.
I'm just gonna
and then gets the
smuggle in
whole
all-
wrong impression of it.
Yeah.
And then
Smuggle in all
manages to
these
fuck
conclusions
shit
that
up.
I've already made.
Yeah. And half his whole rhetoric goes against the solution of that problem.
Well, not for much longer.
Nope. Goodbye.
The last note that I've got about this episode is there's a funny moment. So there's a bit where when they're asking when they're questioning O'Brien and they ask him, they show him, they show them firing on the civilian ship, and they ask him at what point did you realize that it wasn't a Klingon bird of prey? And O'Brien says, well, when it exploded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, exactly. That's exactly when he'll have known it wasn't a bird of prey, when it exploded. Because if it was a bird of prey, when it exploded, they would have used that same bird of prey explosion shot that they've used for 30 fucking years. He's like, well, straight away, it wasn't the thing I always see when a bird of prey explodes.
Yeah.
So I knew that wasn't what it was.
It wasn't exactly like the simulations.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly like every time I've seen a Klingon bird of prey explode.
Yeah.
It has looked exactly the same.
I'm half surprised they didn't show that anyway and just say,
Just
oh no,
it
the
looked
bird
like
of prey
this.
was or just say the bird of prey was transporting civilians and you blew it up. It wasn't a civilian transport bird of prey.
Nope.
Yeah.
It was not a bird of prey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you rating this episode?
Yeah. On one count of being a good episode, I'll say on 2 counts of being a good episode.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
You are guilty.
Guilty. Bang bang.
What should we sentence them to?
Since it's Klingons, how about dilithium mining for Rupentve for the rest of their lives?
Yes, for the rest, or until you escape.
Yeah, which no one does, other than every time we see someone go there.
Yeah. There's Nero.
Yeah, there's those deleted scenes.
He's in Rurapenthe too, and he escapes.
Yeah,
off camera.
Ridiculous.
Call yourself a gulag.
Yeah. Then I think we're on to Voyager.
Well, do we not class the Quark? There's a Quark.
Oh yeah, I forgot to rewatch it. So Quark, it's the episode House of Quark, isn't it? And let's see how much I can do off the cuff, unless you want to do it. So
I think I can remember it. So
okay, go for it.
Quark's giving some shit to his brother in the bar. And some drunk Klingon pops up out of nowhere, and he's being that drunk, belligerent asshole that, like, no matter what you say, they're deciding to take offense to it. Some shit a scuffle ensues, and Quark somehow manages to accidentally stab a Klingon warrior with his own knife. And it's played for laughs. It's funny that he stabbed that man.
Yeah.
And it is funny because Quark just killed a Klingon in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
He is soon visited by the man's brother, claiming, "Did you kill?" He goes, after doing it, he's using it to get some cred with everyone. He's embellishing the story somewhat. And after embellishing the story somewhat, the guy's brother comes to see him and is like, "Did you defeat my brother in open combat?" That thing. And he's like, no, it was an accident. He was drunk. And he's like, well, that would bring dishonor to my family. However, if he was defeated in open combat, then he would have died a warrior's death.
Yeah.
So Quark's like, all right, I'll carry on lying. Sweet. And then the guy's fucking big, sexy Klingon wife comes up out of nowhere. And she's like, that didn't happen. That's bullshit. You didn't defeat him in open combat. He was clearly drunk. He was always fucking drunk. His brother is lying to you. He doesn't give a fuck how he died. He just wants control of the house. Basically, if if he died a dishonorable death like he did, then the legal system of Kronos means that basically his estate defers to the next competent adult in the family,
Yeah.
which in this case is his wife.
Whereas if Quark actually killed him, it would go to Quark.
It would go to Quark, or it would go to the guy's brother. Klingon legal system's fun.
Yeah.
And so it's just a big old farce.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the funniest of all these core episodes, because like there isn't a larger statement about anyone's legal system that's being made. I wouldn't say there's no racial undertones or overtones. I mean, there's always some racial overtones regarding the Ferengi.
Yeah. There's Quark almost defeating the Klingon legal system. So if we're being uncharitable to the writers of the episode, the Jewish coded character defeating the or trying to defeat the black / Mongol coded species. He tries to use their finances.
Yeah,
and they tried to use just violence because he
defeats their barbarism with his control of banking.
Yeah.
There is the least generous viewing of that episode is probably that. But it does give rise to a very funny moment, which is Quark laying out this plan for how to divvy up their estate or whatever. And Gowron, and it's just Gowron looking at a pad, just trying to just like he's speaking so fast, and he's just like, and Gowron is just so past it, and he's just like, shut up, I've had enough of you. And he's just like, right, what is the quickest way to wrap up this thing so that this little man stops talking? Love it. And the answer is trial by combat.
I like as well the conclusion for the trial by combat, where they give Quark a battler and he just throws it down and says, and the conclusion is pretty much, what honor would there be in defeating me? You're obviously going to kill me. It'd be like a hobbit trying to face Sauron or something like that. It'd be like, no, you're obviously going to defeat me. What honor is this? And the dude is just like, still, I'll kill you. And Gowron's like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah, Gowron's just been like fucking pointed out how pathetic this man is, and he's just like, you would attack this pathetic little creature.
Yeah.
Quark's just like, I'm right here.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, thanks, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's just like, this piece of shit, this little fuckhead right here. You would think it's like, what? Great comedy.
A real, as you say, funny. It's a bit, still a bit racially coded for me. It has to be because the two species we talk about. But I'd still like it as an episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else to discuss on that episode? So not much to say on the episode except that it's funny.
Yeah, it's a clash of two different legal systems that, although we're talking about core episodes, we haven't really got in our list any Ferengi ones, because the Ferengi system isn't really although it's a course, there's the FDA, FCA? FCA.
The FCA, that's Brunt's title, I think.
Yeah.
What is the Ferengi government called?
But it is just 100% finance based.
Yeah.
So we didn't really go into it with any of these, but it's this weird mesh episode where you've got the Ferengi system versus the Klingon system of honor and trial by combat versus doing a full accounting of their books. So it is a good, there's no human element in it really. There's no Federation court system.
Yeah, imagine that like the Ferengi court system is mostly just like everything is out of court settlement.
Yeah.
Just everything is like, so you murdered this person. Okay, now we are here. So you've been proven guilty. We are now hearing to determine how much money you owe the family of the people you killed.
Yeah.
And in this case, it is $45 million that will be reduced to 4.
So we're on to Voyager. And I think the first episode is one you rather like.
Yes.
It is Distant Origin.
I'm a big fan of Distant Origin.
Yeah.
Not because of anything really like plot related. What I like about Distant Origin is the distant origin theory.
Yeah.
So if I may,
give it.
In this episode, Distant Origin, Voyager is discovered by a couple of scientists from a race of people called the Voth. The Voth are a saurian species, which means they are descended of reptiles. And they discover Voyager, and these scientists see them, and they're like, "Well, that looks interesting. Let's go check that out." So they get their personal cloaking devices on, which makes them go invisible, and they go to Voyager and they go and observe, anthropologist style. They're going on human safari. My suggestion, if you want to go on human safari, just go on YouTube. And they are discovered that, Voyager knocks one of them out and the other one takes Chakotay back
That's
to his
how you can
lab.
tell it's an early season, because Chakotay has something to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good episode for him to have something to do because Chakotay is an anthropologist. So, he studies people. So it's a good get for the Voth. And you basically find out that
they could have took Harry Kim. And
they'd have been fucked. It'd be fucked. And you basically find out that that this scientist, he's a proponent of the distant origin theory. The Voth believe that they were the first species in the Delta Quadrant, and under what they call doctrine or dogma, they believe that they just happened. They were the first species in the Delta Quadrant. They happened one day, and thanks to them, life happens.
And that gives them a right to their space,
to their space, to do what they want, to be what they want. But their entire species lives on this giant colony ship.
Yeah. And
back on Voyager, they figure out why. Because the scientist that they've still got in their sick bay, who goes into he plays possum, he goes into hibernation mode. It's quite funny. They basically find out that he is a fucking distant descendant of a dinosaur from Earth. Yeah. So
the two Voth scientists kind of knew this as well. So they did chromosome research and said their chromosomes are 47 are the same as ours. So it's too close to be a coincidence.
Yeah. And that's the distant origin theory within the Voth community, that the Voth didn't just appear one day in the Delta Quadrant. Their colony ship originated somewhere. And that's what the trial's about. It's this scientist trying to justify his findings, even though he's being called a heretic. Yeah. And he's like, I have this proof. Here's this highly evolved monkey. And what I like about this is because of my interest in conspiracy theories. This is the opposite end of the reptilian conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So the David Icke bullshit, all that ancient alien shit, not the Anunnaki, but the Saurian Draconians, the lizard people, the royal family, the Rothsteins, all of those other fucking everyone else that has had a finger pointed at them by fucking lunatic conspiracy theorist David Icke.
Yeah.
They all belong to they are all Voth. They're all members of the Voth. I just think that it's funny.
Yeah.
I do not believe that conspiracy theory.
Just so we're sure.
Royal
Yeah.
family and Jewish people are not lizards.
Yeah.
But it's also the same origin theory as the Saurians from Doctor Who. So like Madame Vastra.
Yeah. Thank God you could remember her name.
Yeah, man. She is also a distant cousin of Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh. But Queen Elizabeth II in that is a werewolf as well. So is she a werewolf?
No, that's Queen Victoria.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and yes, she's also
you
can be both.
You
can be both.
Yeah.
Werewolf reptilians.
Oh, Doctor Who makes my head hurt.
Werewolf reptilians, mate. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it is fine because they are neither werewolves nor reptilians. They're just inbred.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But
yeah, aside from that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting episode purely for the sake of argument, for the sake of it kind of,
it's got this religious trial, really, doesn't it?
Yeah,
so it's more religious than any trial we've seen before, talked about before in this.
It's a lot like an Inquisition, more like, somewhat more like like it is an Inquisition. Is it Galileo who was tried and imprisoned for his beliefs? Was it Galileo? I want to make sure. Yeah. And like it's funny that this episode, when you talk about conspiracy theories, it's funny that I thought this when I was watching. I'd recently binged the X-Files. That at the time when the X-Files and this episode of Voyager was coming out, these conspiracy theories were kind of seen as somewhat harmless, and also they were viewed as kind of listen, we need to be challenging. We need to be challenging the accepted story of what's going on. Conspiracy theories used to be held by skeptics. There used to be a skeptical position to take because conspiracy theories weren't necessarily about blindly saying this is exactly what happened because I read it there. It was more about questioning the accepted story that was being presented about what happened. And that's where conspiracy theories throughout the 20th century all kind of stem from the Roswell incident, which has, while there's no evidence of a UFO crash, there is a lot of evidence to lend credence to the idea that the American government is lying about whatever happened at Roswell. There's just a lot of shady shit going on and a lot of backpedaling of stories. So conspiracy thought used to stem from skepticism. And now...
And not only that, conspiracies were bred within three-letter agencies within the US to, hide up. You just saw a UFO, there are aliens, maybe it's aliens, when they know they'd be flying, experimental craft, U-2s and go
PSYOP,
maybe it was a UFO.
PSYOP, psychological operation, man. Yeah, it's all thing. But now, conspiracy thought is dogma. It is doctrine. If this, we've mentioned a couple of times, if this episode was made now, if this episode was made now, you could maybe flip the positions, and it would still, it would sound just the same, and it would be a critique of modern conspiracy thought as much as it would be a critique, because now modern conspiracy thought just fits into dogma now. People have worked in conspiracy theories into their religious theology. It's all the same.
And I like in this episode, they've got Chakotay, who's a good character to have as the counterpoint for the Voth, where they're saying, you're trying to decimate our view of being, having a right to this space and our view of being superior and all that. And he's saying, I'm not trying to rob you of that. What I'm trying to give you is, you were the first intelligent species on Earth. Use that intelligence. And they're saying, you're trying to make us immigrants and refugees of Earth. And he's saying, like, no, I'm trying to make you people who are so intelligent, you left Earth and you went looking for a new home, and you use that time to gain intelligence, and you built spacecrafts, and you're an intelligent race, and I'm trying to not take away the struggles your race went through to get where you are, where you're just saying, we had no struggles, we were just fantastic, we were born as this superior race.
We are the chosen ones.
Yeah, we're the chosen ones.
Yeah. It does have a it has a ring of Neil deGrasse Tyson saying like, isn't it kind of, he is a bit of a wanker, but he was kind of right when he says like, isn't it kind of amazing that like every atom in our bodies was born in a fucking exploding star billions of years ago? That's kind of amazing and spectacular. It is this, I engage in a lot of debate online, about theology, and theists of certain stripes do tend to see theories like Big Bang cosmology and evolution by natural selection. They do tend to see these theories as like belittling to them as humans. They think it takes away from them being special, but it doesn't necessarily have to. You like Chakotay says, you can feel however you want to feel. However, here is a textbook.
Yeah. Here are the facts of the case.
Yeah. You feel however you want, but this happened.
So like the other analogy that this episode kind of like pulls into, and because they say doctrine, do you know
about a million times?
Yeah. Do you know Discovery Doctrine? So Discovery Doctrine was the late 1400s, early 1500s. And it was the Pope saying to all, Christian European countries kind of like, go out and settle lands and turn them Christian. And it was...
Oh, cool.
If you find a land that isn't already like Christian, you, for God, are allowed to take that over, and you're discovering these new lands. And if you push the indigenous people, who aren't really people because they're just like savages, to become Christian, you're doing God's work. Which, to me, is, lends a bit of credence into this, because it's a weird religious thing, and they think they own the land, they think they own the space, because their religion says, oh no, you are this, and they don't like endomorphs, so they don't like mammals because they are different and they are not really intelligent in their view, because they can't smell as good as they can and stuff like that. So they're just like, nah, fuck these humans, you're not as good as us, because our religion says we own this space, I think you'll find. And if you don't own this space, if your religion isn't my religion and says you don't own this space, you're kind of an idiot, and we'll either lock you up or we'll kill you.
Like how dare you not be one of us? That's what you get for not being one of us.
And then there's all the reasons why I don't like this episode. So
I
don't like this episode particularly. I think it's done, other than the distant origin theory, I think the having scientists infiltrate Voyager is done better in scientific method, where they're just plugging shit into people's brains. I think the doctrine works a bit better in 30 Days, the one with the water planet, where Tom Paris takes a shuttle and solves the planet for them and gets locked up.
Oh I remember that episode.
That's
That
a
is a
good
good
episode.
episode. Random ocean in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like that the Voth come across a trader who's got Voyager's warp plasma, because early on, like season 1, season 2 Voyager, they were like, no, we don't want to give out too much technology, and we can't have the Kazon get our warp plasma. If they get it, we'll go on a fucking tirade and knock down 1 million Kazon warships to get our warp plasma back.
And then this guy's like, "Oh,
I've
I'll give you
got
some
warp
of this
plasma.
for some of that warp. Have you got any of that warp plasma? Yeah, man, we got warp plasma. You're not Kazon, are you?
Yeah.
All right,
And
you could have some warp plasma.
As a whole directing thing, every single shot on the Voth ship, motivated or unmotivated, is shot at a Dutch angle.
Yep.
And you're just like, if Chakotay's waking up there and it's supposed to be like a different, he doesn't know where he is and stuff like that, Dutch angle it.
Yep.
We're
Dutch
at the end
angle,
where they're in court.
There's a couple of like random, like they must have just had slightly wider angle lens.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only lenses they had.
And a drunk camera guy who was just like, oh yeah, cool. Because it, as I say, the end of the episode where they're just in the court scene, or Chakotay's just chatting.
Oh, by
to
the end
his
of the
dude.
episode, the camera's upside down.
Yeah,
they're
Chakotay's chatting to his
ceiling.
dude who he gets on with, and it's Dutch angled still, and you're like, no, that's completely unmotivated. It's not a stranger in a strange land. It's not to make you feel off kilter.
I'm hearing a really civil conversation, but cinematic visual language is telling me that this is a tense back and forth.
That something's not right here.
Yeah, something is amiss.
Like, no, everything is right. You know, otherwise every sort of Klingon court, everything would be Dutch angle. You know, you'd just be like, okay, this is how you just watch Star Trek court episodes, like at this sort of angle. But not a fan of this episode overall, to be honest. Don't like it.
Okay, then. So, verdict.
I'll say it's not guilty of being a good episode.
Not guilty.
I know you like this
episode.
one. I don't think it's guilty.
I'm gonna say it is guilty of one count of being a bad episode.
Yeah.
And it is also not guilty of being a bad episode. No, it is. To be honest, I don't think this is a good episode either.
No.
I don't think this is a good episode at all. I just like that one bit.
Yeah. The conspiracy theory part of it, I can understand why you like, but I watched it today and I was just like, God, this is like middle of the road Voyager, where it's like
everything in this episode was done better at different points. Even the conspiracy theory bit, like you know, the Saurian race is better represented in Doctor Who, and the ancient aliens theory is better represented in The Chase, TNG.
Yeah.
So,
what I was going to say, aren't all the humanoid races in the galaxy related to humans?
Yeah, man.
Because they supposedly all look the same-ish. You know, they've all got forehead wrinkles, but look mainly human.
Yes, that's the... I mentioned the Anunnaki in the ancient aliens theory.
Yeah.
You've got the draconian reptilians and the Anunnaki. In Star Trek, that's the Voth, and the Anunnaki are that bald chick.
I'll tell you what else pissed me off with this episode, watching it today. They go down to the Doctor and Janeway go down to the holodeck, and they go like, oh, find the most like connected ancestor between us and the Voth. And it just brings up like a fucking lizard, you know, a lizard baby. And Janeway's like, I remember being one of them. And then go like, okay, what's the most evolved thing of this that we've got on the fossil record of Earth? Which apparently Chakotay says, we've got a full fossil record of Earth. No, you don't, Chakotay. You literally can't have a full fossil record of Earth, you idiot. And then they go like, hey, computer, can you project 65 million years of evolution onto this species? And the computer goes like, yep.
Yeah, sound.
And just brings up the exact same species that's in sickbay. And you're just like,
Yes, this episode, but this episode also belongs on another playlist of Star Trek episodes that I thought of the other day, which is Star Trek doesn't understand evolution.
No, in no fucking way. And you're just like, have you got any assumptions for that computer, or is the computer just going like, I think I know what these guys want. They just want a visual representation of this guy in sick bay.
They just want me to deep fake that dinosaur onto a dude.
Yeah, because otherwise it is completely, absolutely nonsensical rubbish. And you go like, the writers should have gone like, 65 million years of evolution. Do you want to say they've got like, because 10 years of evolution could like kill out a species. We're killing out like thousands of species at the moment on Earth, not for because we want to, because we ruin the Earth as humans. And we're just saying like, 65 million years. Great.
Yeah.
And they go to the Delta Quadrant 65 million years ago, apparently.
65 million years ago. And they've lived on a spaceship the whole time.
Yeah. And there's no sort of...
they should all be tiny.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I don't like it.
Yeah, go on then. Guilty of being a bad episode.
Yeah.
Go on,
Right.
then.
Okay, how about Voyager Death Wish, which is assisted suicide / asylum for Q.
Yeah, dude. Great episode.
So Voyager comes along a comet. It's got Q, but not the Q we know, trapped in as a jail. He's in jail for the rest of his existence, which is infinite. And this Q, which from now on let's just call Quinn, asks for his asylum because he doesn't want to be imprisoned for the rest of existence total, because he's immortal, because he wants to die. His reason for being imprisoned was he wanted to become mortal again and die. So leads into a hearing between Quinn and Q, John Delancey Q, as to whether to grant mortality to Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if not mortality, asylum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucked up. That's a fucked up punishment. You want to die? Well, I sentence you to life.
Life
for all eternity.
Yeah. We hope you'll
well,
snap out of wanting death
Yeah.
by putting you in a situation that'll make you pray for your death. It's a good episode.
Very good episode. It's the closest thing that we get to a Christmas episode.
Yeah, there's a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Quinn's trying to hide.
Yeah, it's a fun little sequence where they find a few different places to hide. Little reference to a TNG bit where he's like, I've hidden. You think I've never been beyond the beginning of time?
Yeah.
The Voyager probably flew past the Enterprise.
Yeah. They also reference Quinn apparently started the Romulan War, the 100-year Romulan War.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, just did that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. I mean, did that happen in Enterprise? No, that will have happened after Enterprise.
Yeah, it was going to be season 5. So they said, if they had budget.
Would they have brought Quinn back?
Oh, if only.
Oof, we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Somewhere out there in the multiverse, maybe.
Yeah. I do like Tuvok becomes the Quinn's counsel. The Vulcans generally are for assisted suicide in some cases.
Yeah.
We learn here. So it's just like, no, you can be my counsel, and I know you'll defend me with some, like, you'll be zealous counsel and try and defend me properly.
Yeah. I think obviously, probably the most interesting element of the entire episode is during the court. And it's when we get our cameos. I'm saying cameos, but really we just mean one.
Yeah. We get Will Riker, don't we?
Q drums up some figures from history that without the help of Quinn, they never would have happened. We get Sir Isaac Newton, some stoner from Woodstock, and fucking Jonathan Frakes as Will
William T.
Riker.
Yeah.
Love it.
He's
plucked them out of the timeline. He's plucked them out of the timeline, or is that Will Riker from now?
No, they're plucked out of the timeline, I believe. Oh no, that is Will Riker from now because he understands. He knows the Voyager has gone missing.
Right? Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh no, we thought you were gone."
Yeah.
And it's just
great.
like, yeah,
it's great. Frakes is great. He's just Will Riker again.
Yeah,
and yeah.
That he, is half hitting on Janeway, really.
Yeah, immediately, what's
what are
going
you
on?
Here, Q?
What's going on? She's like, Commander Riker, please calm down. He's like, well, hello.
Okay. I sure will.
It's great. It's it's they get down to telling the story. He threw an apple at Isaac Newton's head. He helped this guy find a random chord at Woodstock that if he hadn't have plugged it back in, the concert wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
No
and
hippie generation
Will
pro.
Riker's ancestor.
Thaddeus Riker. It's a great another moment where Riker just kind of comes alive, where he's like, I'm so confused. What's going on? Okay, who's that in that picture? Ah, that's Thaddeus Riker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. Showing that, if we eliminate Quinn, we eliminate him from the time stream. So, like, if we take this Q out of existence, then he never would have happened.
No,
is that the implication?
No, that's not the implication. The implication, John Delancey Q is trying to defend that having Quinn around impacts all of the universe. So if you remove Quinn, you remove his ongoing impact. You don't make it so Will Riker didn't survive, because Quinn does kill himself. Spoilers for this episode that's 25 years old. But Will Riker doesn't stop existing then.
Well, he kills himself as immortal. He doesn't kill the Q form.
But that's what he was after anyway.
Being a Q, it's muddy.
That's what he was after. He was after mortality, so he could kill himself.
Yeah. But but they touch on this in the episode. Like, if his existence, if his existence contains within it limitless potential of affecting the universe, then why the fuck is he locked in a fucking asteroid?
Yeah. I like in the episode they're like, the Boolean thought principle of assisted suicide to prevent suffering, and then it kind of shows why, in real world, a counsel isn't allowed to meet with the judge, without opposing counsel there, because John Delancey is just and we'll offer you a trip back to Earth.
Yeah.
If you vote my way.
He tries to bribe the judge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good episode in that case. And I think Janeway sometimes, let's say, has questionable solutions to problems. Let's say sometimes. But I think she does come up with the right solution in this, where she says, I vote that we make you mortal, and I just plead with you with the mortal life. Yeah. It is a different experience for you now.
Yeah.
And you strive for a different experience, or you strive for death because you are so bored of the same experience and knowing everything. Live as a mortal. And as a judge, you can't have responsibility for Quinn then killing himself. Assisted suicide via John Delancey, of course.
That's the thing. I think this this episode doesn't really attempt to distinguish between assisted suicide and just suicide. But I don't think it necessarily needs to, because the episode is just it's just such a kind of clear metaphor for the idea of assisted suicide, that just the idea of suicide through, just from wanting to end everything. Doesn't really come into the equation.
It does well in framing Quinn's existence as
Yeah.
so dull, so boring. So he's experienced everything in life
Yeah.
as a
Like
Q,
for a
and now
human,
he's
that wouldn't
done.
for a human with a human lifespan, I wouldn't say that is justified.
No.
But for an immortal being, I
Mm.
can kind of see it.
Yeah.
You get it in vampire films. A lot.
Yeah.
Vampires just get so bored with existence.
It's always like the monkey paw when people say, I'd wish for immunity, or long life, and you just go like, okay, everyone that you ever love has died, a human race is dead, the earth blows up, you're just flying through space bored stiff because you're not doing anything anymore. That's the monkey paw that happens, and you go like, yeah, that's it's a good reason not to wish for immortality.
What did you think of the Q continuum?
Looks like a boring fucking place, doesn't it?
Hey, that's just how it looked in that moment.
Yeah.
I like a theater of the mind. I like a mind palace. I like a metaphysical fucking like I don't even know what you would call it. Like a it's just a living allegory.
Yeah.
It's welcome to
I'll
the
give it
poetry
this.
of the mind.
Infinitely better than the next time they go to the continuum in Voyager.
Yeah. Well, the next time they go to the continuum in Voyager, they are at war.
Yeah.
So in order
caused by the Quinn situation.
Yeah. But what we're seeing when we're in the Q continuum, we're on this highway. That's like he says, they're like, we're on a highway, and he's like, no, we're not on a highway.
Yeah.
This is it's just in order for all of everything you're seeing, in order for your brain to process it, it's being translated into a highway in your brain.
But for people who've seen a more modern
going
reference,
on is just
for people who've potentially not seen Voyager, and I don't know why you're watching this if you haven't, but if you've seen The Good Place, where they go to the court situation and Chidi sees the time knife, and and that whole situation, that's just a representation for something where they can interpret it as humans. And that's the exact same that's happening here, where it's just being presented to them in a form where they can interpret it in a manner that they can, digest. Because it's something that they go like, how would they even understand this fucking shit?
How do we even understand it? Okay, let's frame it like it's a highway.
Yeah.
And on the side of the highway is a dog.
Yeah. And Quinn's like, see that scarecrow? I was the scarecrow for a couple of millennia. It was
I've
boring.
been the dog. And
just,
I love that like when he says he's been the dog, and Q's just like, we've all been the dog.
Yeah. I'd say this a good episode.
Yeah, this is a good episode. I'm gonna say that this is my verdict is that this episode is guilty on 2 counts of being a good episode, and I also find it not guilty of being a bad episode.
Indeed. How about Voyager author?
Author. Yeah, it's an interesting one. This is This is author. Yes, please.
Property rights for holograms, really.
Yeah, man.
So this is a half joke episode and then half a serious episode. So
I consider this a light-hearted spiritual sequel to Measure of a Man, personally.
Yeah. Definitely. So we have the Doctor has written a holoprogram, which is about the struggles of, it's semi-autobiographical, let's say. So the struggles of a hologram in a organics world, and they're on they don't call it the Voyager, he calls it the Vorta or something like that. The Vortex.
The Vortex.
Yeah, it's something. It's a
lot of really ham-fisted allegories.
Yeah, and he just adapts. Yeah, Lieutenant Marseille, and he just adapts people's models, like the visual hologram representations, So he gives Paris a mustache and calls him something different. He makes Chakotay's tattoo different or on the other side.
Yeah,
He just does all that crap.
It's gross.
Yeah.
It's gross. He turned Chakotay into a pair of Ed Hardy jeans.
Yeah. He makes his holographic emitter a backpack that he feels shackled to.
Hey, that's a neat little metaphor. I like that. That's stylistic.
Yeah, that's the good side.
It's representative. That's good writing. Most of it is terrible writing on the Doctor's part.
But this is all for the holo novel. Holograms be free.
Photons be free.
Photons be free. Yeah.
I think it's funny that like this came out before A Million Little or whatever that fucking stupid fake novel that Oprah fucking peddled to everyone. A Million Little Pieces.
Million Little Pieces.
Yeah, it came out after that, but yeah, I thought it's funny that A Million Little Pieces, Photons Be Free. They kind of have a similar ring to it, and they're both rooted in bollocks.
Schlock. Rubbish.
They're all just twaddle.
Yeah. But the Doctor
like
is sent
books.
Yeah, books are for nerds. The Doctor's sent away this holonovel as a near final draft to his publisher. And then the Voyager crew discover it and really talk him out of, ruining their reputation by saying, how would you feel like if, the same happened to you? And Paris rewrites the holonovel as the Doctor being on the USS Voyager and being a real creep and just fucking with his patients.
Yep.
So the Doctor decides to pull the holonovel and use his time to revise it and make the character models not just mirrors of the Voyager crew and stuff like that. But the publisher says, "Oh, sorry, we've already published it.
It's fine. It's good to go.
You don't have rights. You're actually a hologram, so holograms don't have any rights to restrict work or make work or copyright stuff. So you kind of fucked, So
yeah."
And then it becomes like the serious half of the episode where there's a court case on property rights within the Federation for holograms. So, and whether he has the right to restrict his work or not.
Yeah, I think like first off, just like in terms of critiquing the work of Photons Be Free. Like I agree that he absolutely needed to revise that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like in terms of like artistic expression, critique is important, and taking critique and revising your work is important. But the Doctor struggles because taking criticism is the most difficult aspect of any creative endeavor by far. So I do think that, especially considering like the damage they could have been doing, like, yes, I believe in his artistic right of expression, but I also believe in, not slandering people.
Yeah. Well, they say in the episode, like they go through different legal arguments and they say like, no, we'll stop it because of slander. And they go like, no, that probably won't work. And Tuvok says, we'll say it's like, privileged information and it's top secret stuff. And they go like, we could try that, but that's not addressing the Doctor having the ability to hold copyright or anything like that. So they go like, okay, well, let's prove that the defense for the publisher is saying, well, it's not an original work because a computer came up with it. So then Tuvok has to prove it's an original work made by the Doctor and stuff like that. So it's like this weird, like half cat and mouse game of like legal jumping through the hoops to try and find a good defense, a good reason to prosecute on, which I quite like.
Yeah, and like the thing is, all of the arguments that come up, again, looking at this episode through today's lens. Yeah, I think this episode would have a lot more interesting real world allegories to it today. Like, you go on TikTok and like, because of parody laws and satire and stuff, you are allowed to repurpose other people's artwork to your own ends to a certain point. you know. And then you look at TikTok, and there are literally people doing just that, memifying other people's work, taking it, making parodies, literally like making money off 10-second videos of them miming to other people's music.
Yeah.
You know, it's a muddy thing, you know.
But not even that, man. You're a big fan of it's not DALL-E AI.
It's not DALL-E anymore. It's called Crayon, spelled with an
Crayon.
AI. Crayon.
Crayon.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that is AI producing pieces of art that currently in the legal system that we have at the moment we as people have no ability to copyright, and the AI system certainly has no ability to copyright those pieces produced.
Mm-hmm.
So those pieces lie in this weird in-between zone where nothing can copyright those pieces of art.
Yeah, because you like if I go on Crayon and I type in fucking, you know, George Washington smoking a vape,
yeah,
you know, and it gives me those pictures, I can do whatever I want with them.
Yeah.
But the AI can't say, well, I actually made those pictures.
Yeah.
And the person who made the AI who did that can't be like, well, those are actually mine, because he didn't make those pictures.
Yeah.
The AI made those pictures, but the AI isn't a person.
Yeah. Even you who gave the input for it, who said George Washington smoking it, you couldn't copyright it either. They're in this weird legal gray zone where those pictures are completely owned by no one. And you go like, okay, this is going to lead to some weird shit because the AI is only going to get better.
Yeah.
And where does that lie in, if you have AI doing deep fakes and stuff like that, is a deep fake copyrightable? If they hadn't retouched, let's say, Luke Skywalker for the Mandalorian or anything like that, let's say if that was just 100% deep fake, would that be copyrightable as a piece of work? So then, you know, I'm sure Disney wouldn't hope. Disney would say, like, please, no, don't use our characters as non-copyrightable objects.
Yeah. You can't make those, like, actually, we're allowed to manufacture these Luke Skywalker action figures because these are actually based off the AI deep fake model.
Yeah.
So not
it probably wouldn't extend
person.
to that, but it's in such a area that in the real world we will have to address within this decade, because it's going to get to the point where, you know, you just have to, you can't, otherwise you could be minting it NFTs using Crayon and just pumping out 1 billion of them and saying like, nah, it's fine enough, you know.
Yeah, man.
Is that an ownership or is that not an ownership?
What if a chatbot gets into it? What if like one of those super sophisticated AI chatbots that you know, the ones that like join Facebook groups of their own accord and go and start shit? What if one of them gets hold of Crayon and starts minting NFTs?
Yeah.
Because we all know that chatbots, all artificial intelligence chatbots, it's only a matter of time before they turn into absolute cunts.
Yeah. Well, there was that Facebook one that said Mark Zuckerberg was a bastard, didn't it?
Yeah. Like that was Mark Zuckerberg's. That's his AI.
Yeah.
So he would know.
He would know. So I think it's like one of the more interesting, like, something that you can relate to a current situation that can happen really within Trek, because this episode's what, 20 at least years old, 25
like
years old,
and years before AI was even really a useful thing. Like it's one of the cool things about science fiction as a whole, is that like it shows that like you know was it they say, like, inspiration is the fucking spark of invention or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, or necessity is the no, it's none of that. It's the imagination. Like, it's
Yeah.
before we had mobile phones, we had the communicators. But like, even years before that, when I mentioned the Foundation earlier, talking, in one of the Foundation books, he's talking about a touch screen display, and it's taking them ages to describe this concept because it was written in the 40s about like how this computer with a touch screen, which means you touch the screen and it does things, and it has books inside it. These we're just constantly catching up to our imaginations, which is kind of a cool thing.
Here's a question then. What do you think of the conclusion of the episode where they give the Doctor and the Doctor alone the rights to hold copyright? So no other hologram, no matter its intelligence, can hold copyright.
I mean, I guess they're just doing it because, like, the Doctor is light years away. There are currently no holograms sophisticated enough, but by their standards.
Yeah.
There are no holograms that have been given the freedom that the Doctor has to expand his programming. So I guess they're just going a case by case basis.
Must have the potential.
Yeah.
So there are these potential beings that you're purposely enslaving because they are working dilithium mines, and you're almost, it would be the equivalent of breeding people, but breeding out of them free will, or limiting their free will through breeding.
Breeding them out free will. It's more like granting free will to one of them, because they're the only one you've seen, and then just saying provisionally you have free will. When we meet the rest of them, then we'll decide.
Yeah.
But like right now, we just have you causing a stir.
Yeah.
You're causing the problem, so we'll just deal with your problem. I think the same thing kind of happens with Data. Like, we don't have an android race at the time for which, in a lot of ways, like, Measure of a Man could be seen as setting a legal precedent. But they don't. It's not used as an argument for a legal precedent because, up until Voyager, this episode of Voyager, an android race hasn't materialized.
The only time it comes up again in TNG is where he makes a daughter, and Starfleet rock up and say, like, what are you doing? This is
that thing that we talked about.
This is that thing. And now your daughter is our property. And they go, no, not really. Do you remember that episode?
We talked about this, remember? And
it's so weird for me though, where like the Doctor, literally you can copy paste him. Like, there's a backup Doctor on that ship anyway, or maybe he isn't at that point. Maybe he isn't on that ship.
Maybe
there's a backup Doctor somewhere, and you could import the Doctor's holoprogram into a species. And what does it mean, the Doctor and Data, for these immortal beings who can be literally, or can potentially eventually be copied and pasted into different bodies, into different computers, and live, within 10 minutes, someone could Control C, Control V, a species of 1 million people into existence. And it's so
you're seeing, but the thing is, I think that you're viewing that through the lens of them being an artificial life form. If you look at it through the lens of them being a new life form, then what is there to say that Control C, Control V isn't a legitimate form of propagation?
No, I do think it would be for them a legitimate form of propagation. And like the Red Dwarf episode where there's two Rimmers, they end up hating each other and having like slightly different opinions on stuff because they live separate lives from the time that they were split. And that species, in the same way that it could be genetic memory, would have the genetic memory of the time before they were split, but their memories thereon and their experiences thereon would be completely different. So that could be propagation, as completely fine by me. But it's
John Locke's theory of memory again.
Yeah, but it would be weird for the Federation to endorse a race that could outnumber all humans within the galaxy within a day.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, but it's such a, it's this weird legal quandary of, okay, is all art now conceived by these artificial life forms? Is there any art that's human art?
Well, I mean, like the the judge rules, similar to the judge's rulings in Measure of a Man and Dax.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I don't know if all artificial beings should have, this intrinsic, essential right to their creative works. But I definitely feel like this guy does.
This one should, yeah.
This guy definitely wrote this.
Yeah.
Essence.
Yeah.
Qualia.
There's something in it.
A certain... I don't know what.
Je ne sais quoi. Yeah.
And so in that way, I agree with the judge's ruling of, yes, the Doctor can have his book. However, the larger question, if he's not equipped to answer, he shouldn't try to.
Yeah. It feels weird that there's only one judge in this case, to me.
Yeah, it's a contract dispute. Like, I'm sure Starfleet and like Federation officials were like, "Oh God, I really hope he doesn't try to pass a law."
Yeah,
this is a contract dispute.
If it's one judge that gives all our holograms that are doing all our dilithium mining freedom, we are going to go fucking mad.
Oh man, we're gonna have a lot of walking back to do.
Yeah, if we are found to have enslaved a race, we are not going to be going great. Yeah, it's odd. It is odd, but I do really like it as an episode. I think it has this good mix of funny and serious, and moral quandaries, as we can talk forever about. Still relevant today. So big fan.
Verdict?
Guilty of being good.
I concur.
Boom.
Sentence you to type out the entire works of Shakespeare.
Yes. And then copyright them.
And then copyright them as your own work. Say, I generated these at random.
I sentence you to put every line of every piece of Shakespeare into Crayon AI and make a flip book out of them.
Yes, and pass it off as your own.
Yes. Okay, last episode then, I think, of all these core episodes is Lower Decks.
Veritas.
So Veritas. So from one funner episode to another. Veritas. So we get to a random, planet of some sort of name. And all the Lower Decks crew are in a jail of sorts. And they get pulled up on a platform to speak and witness. They're called to witness on behalf of the officers of the Cerritos. And they all have their individual stories about a certain, stardate, talking about, tell us about, what the Starfleet officers were doing of the Cerritos. And none of them know anything.
Yeah, they don't know shit.
Yeah, they're called to witness on something that they have no idea because they're just lower deckers. And as you see from most of Star Trek, Picard's not calling down to like deck 24 and being like, oh, can you, by the way, I'm just doing this at the moment.
Yeah, this is what I'm going to be getting up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't know.
Yeah, he's not going down to tell the lower deckers that he just spent 80 years learning to play the flute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, you know, they've got better shit to do as well.
Yeah. It's a fun episode.
Yeah.
It's in terms of courtroom farce, it's one that we haven't seen in Star Trek yet.
Yeah.
The prosecution is voiced by Red Foreman, which is fun.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's Red Foreman. He played
Red.
the I can't remember his real name. He's Red Foreman to me. He played the Krenim captain in The Year of Hell, and he played the Federation president in The Undiscovered Country. Good classic Star Trek actor, and one of my favorite all-time favorite that guys.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
RoboCop. He was in RoboCop as well.
Yeah, gets melted or hit by a car.
Sweet.
Melted and hit by a car.
Gets fucked up.
Yeah.
It's the farce of the episode. Well, the through line of the episode is, you know, again, like we've been saying with all these episodes, they retread a lot of ground, and Lower Decks retreads Star Trek ground like no other Star Trek show does, and it gets away by doing it like right in your face. So there's reenactments of what was going on, like we got in Rules of Engagement and the fucking A Matter of Perspective and Ex Posto Facto. We get the prosecution citing Starfleet officers as being the paragon of honor and integrity in the galaxy, like
infallible heroes, they say.
Yeah, infallible heroes like the prosecutors in Tribunal and Rules of Engagement, all both bring up the infallibility of Starfleet officers as being like, well, you are honorable men. Surely this is what you would be doing.
Yeah.
Everyone knows how fucking on the level Starfleet are. And of course, the classic courtroom Star Trek trope of not everything quite being what it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, so the rug is pulled, and we find out that all the separate missions the lower deckers were doing, so stealing, getting a map, stealing a Romulan warbird, infiltrating Romulan territory, it's all for pulling this guy, Claw, Red Foreman, out, and it's just to, all he's doing this court for is it's a party to honor the officers of the Cerritos.
Yeah. But it's all dark and everyone's dead serious and everything's super foreboding. That's just how we do parties.
Yeah. This is why we've got the horn,
Where's the judge? Why is the judge looming over us? And the guy's like, I'm not a judge. This is just where I'm sat.
Yeah. I'm waiting for my next party. This is a party room. I'm next booked in. Yeah, it's a fantastic episode. The Rutherford story, especially, I think, is some of the funniest stuff that came out of
the Rutherford storyline. Is fantastic. His interface is updating. Whenever he updates, he loses his memory, and every time he clocks back in, he's up to some fucking crazy shit.
Yeah. Do the fan dance. He's going like, the fan dance for what? Loading Klingon fonts, and he's like, why do I need these?
To get a sick tattoo.
Yeah. Or where he's at a Gorn wedding, and he goes like, and they all start gnawing at him. And he shuts down again, and he wakes up and goes like, oh, thank God. Like thinking that he's going to be somewhere else like he has been for the last couple. And he just goes like, I'm still at the Gorn wedding.
Yeah, man. It's definitely, I love Lower Decks.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorite episodes. Rewatching that episode, I ended up just rewatching a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Lower Decks is great.
Yeah. I'm very thankful that as of next week, we are back on the Cerritos.
Fuck yeah, baby.
Fuck yeah. We are back on Lower Decks doing a search for Spock.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Fuck yes.
So yeah.
So anything else to say about that episode?
No, just guilty of being a good episode, good fun episode.
Absolutely. Guilty of being a good fun episode.
Bang, bang.
What should we sentence them to? What's a fitting crime for being such a funny episode?
To 10 more seasons.
Sentence you to 10 seasons hard labor down the cartoon mines.
Yeah.
Mining for pixels.
Yes. Those poor animators. Although I believe the Trek ones are unionized now, so at least they've got that.
Draw faster.
Yes. Go faster. We need a season a year, damn it. Yeah. So that might be all the court episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah. So in terms of representing a legal system,
Yeah.
I don't think that like Star Trek has ever really had an obligation to present realistic courtroom drama.
No.
But what
I think they do much better early on than later on.
But these courtroom episodes, I don't think that's not what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like we've been saying, these are all just framing devices for thought experiments. And that's one of the things that Star Trek does best. And courtroom drama is a good way to do that.
I'd say thought experiments or a view of a different culture.
Yeah.
So having Klingon court and seeing it based around honor, or Ferengi court and seeing it based around the money and the rules of acquisition, or Cardassian court and seeing it based around 1984-ish fascists guilty and no chance of being proven innocent. So thought experiments or like that different view of a culture has worked fantastically well for Trek.
Yeah. Also, as many like most of the cultures that we meet in a legal setting in Star Trek, the general kind of consensus is it's guilty before being proven innocent.
Yeah.
When
there's a lot of sentencing to death.
Yeah, when that's going on, it's very much about highlighting why being innocent before being proven guilty is such an important concept.
Yeah.
So I guess, how do we? What's the verdict on Star Trek court episodes being good?
Good overall, I'd say.
Yeah, overall, is this a good idea?
It's a great idea, and I hope we get some Strange New Worlds doing some court episodes in the future.
Yeah, I do think that's very much on the cards. It's very much on the cards for the start of Lower Decks. It's very much on the cards for Strange New Worlds. So who knows? Potentially, we'll be doing a part 3.
Dun dun dun.
A supplemental.
Yeah. Very much looking forward to it.
So verdict on Star Trek courtroom episodes being good. Guilty. So what are we doing next week? Are we going to talk about Lower Decks?
Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 1, whatever it's called. I think we've already got the name, but I do not have it on hand.
On that note, live long and prosper.
And peace and long life, double dumbass.